Story 1. When my 2-year relationship ended, I found myself living alone again. After the breakup, I jumped back into the world of online dating, swiping through apps like Tinder. It had been a few months since the split, and I had already met a handful of people. One of those matches was a woman named Tracy. She gave me her Snapchat, but our conversations quickly fizzled out. She mostly just watched my stories without engaging, something that felt reminiscent of my college years. However, now in my late 20s, the whole online dating scene felt a lot more tiresome and immature. I live in a corner townhouse in a quiet little community. For work, I am an accountant. The money is good, but the job itself is mind-numbingly dull. After my ex moved out, I thought I would appreciate the solitude, but the peace and quiet lost their charm after about a month. Maybe I am just the type who thrives in relationships, or perhaps I just need people around to feel balanced. Either way, being alone was starting to wear on me. That is why I kept swiping on dating apps and setting up dates, just to get out of the house. Last December, I posted something Christmas-related on my Snapchat story. Out of the blue, Tracy commented on it. We had not spoken in weeks, but she struck up a conversation about doing some Christmas-themed activities together. I threw out a few suggestions: ice skating, visiting the village to check out the decorations, but she countered with the idea of decorating my Christmas tree. Now, I do have a fake tree, but it was stored up in the attic. I told her I had not put it up yet because it was a 2-person job to get it down. She offered to help, and I figured, why not? We agreed she would come over around 9 o'clock that evening. It was already dark when we made the plan, probably around 7:30. I remember because I rushed out to the liquor store to grab a couple of bottles of wine. When I got back, I vacuumed and tidied up. After the breakup, I had to pick up all the cleaning chores my ex used to handle, and let me tell you, it was eye-opening how fast a place could get messy. By the time 9 o'clock rolled around, I was sitting upright on the couch, pretending to casually watch a movie, even though I had set everything up to be as cozy and inviting as possible. Time ticked by, and I started to think she was going to flake. I sent her a follow-up message, asking her to let me know when she was on her way. Finally, around 9:30, she messaged me saying she was outside. When I opened the door, I was surprised to find she was taller than me. I am 5 feet 10 inches, so she had to be at least 6 feet tall. She also smelled like she had doused herself in perfume, but beneath the overwhelming scent, there was a faint hint of body odor that was off-putting. We went straight to the couch, where she sat unusually close to me, our legs touching. Something about her threw me off. She looked older than her photos, maybe a little rough around the edges. As we talked, I offered her some wine. She eagerly accepted, so I poured us each a glass of Merlot. Almost immediately, she spilled a large drop of wine on my light blue couch. I wanted to scream but kept my cool, saying, "It is okay," as I rushed to grab a damp paper towel and sponge. The mood felt tense after that, so I suggested we get the tree down from the attic. I climbed up to the attic and started handing her the pieces of the tree, each one larger than the last. When we got to the biggest section, she grabbed it effortlessly, reminding me just how strong she seemed. Once everything was downstairs, we assembled the tree in the living room with Christmas music playing. I poured her another glass of wine, and we both drank more. The wine helped me relax a little. Next up were the ornaments, which were stored in the crawl space. These decorations were sentimental, handed down from my parents. While Tracy stayed in the living room, I went down to the crawl space to retrieve the bins. As I carried the first bin upstairs, I started feeling unusually woozy. I am not a heavy drinker and have a low tolerance, but I had not consumed enough wine to feel this out of it. By the time I reached the living room, Tracy was nowhere to be seen. At first, I thought she might be in the bathroom, but it was empty. I called her name and checked every room, but she was gone. I even tried messaging her on Snapchat, but she did not open the message. Confused and a little hurt, I wondered if she had bailed because she found me unattractive or weird. Feeling defeated, I slumped onto the couch. My memory after that is fuzzy. I remember periodically checking my phone, then everything went black. I woke up in complete darkness. The TV and lights were off, and I felt disoriented. My limbs were heavy, and it was hard to move. As I reached for my phone, its screen lit up, illuminating the silhouette of a tall figure standing in front of me. For some reason, I did not scream. I just whispered, "Tracy," but got no response. When I turned on my phone's flashlight, I saw it was indeed her, standing silently and staring at me. I was paralyzed. Whether from fear or whatever she had laced my drink with, I could not tell. All I could do was whisper her name a few more times. Suddenly, she turned and bolted down the stairs. The sound of her heavy footsteps echoed through the house. I heard a door slam, which I assumed was the front door. As I slowly regained my strength, I checked Snapchat and saw that her account was gone. She had blocked me. I looked out the window but did not see any unfamiliar cars outside. That is when it hit me. I had never even seen how she arrived. I searched my house and found that all my bottles of pills were missing. Vitamins, supplements, my Adderall prescription, and even an old bottle of oxycodone from a surgery, all gone. She also took a bottle of vodka from my mini fridge. Nothing else seemed to be missing. I called the police to report the robbery, but all I had was her Snapchat username and the name she gave me, Tracy Gibson. The officers questioned my neighbor, but he had not seen or heard anything unusual. Looking back, everything about her makes sense now. I am convinced she was older than she claimed and likely homeless with a severe drug addiction. She must have masked her body odor with perfume and drugged my wine while I was in the attic. The most haunting image that sticks with me is her tall silhouette standing over me while I lay helpless on the couch. After that night, I could not bring myself to finish decorating the tree. Christmas felt different that year, and I have not touched a dating app since. Story 2. This happened on Christmas Eve back in 1997, when I was 7 years old. Since we are Jewish, we do not celebrate Christmas, so the evening was just like any other for us. My dad is a doctor, and because he is Jewish, he always worked on call during the Christmas holidays. That meant he was not home that night, leaving my little sister and me alone for the evening. Technically, our mom was home, but to be honest, she was an alcoholic back then. Being a 7-year-old, I did not understand what alcoholism was. All I knew was that mom would always pass out once it got dark, and waking her up was nearly impossible. Sorry if that sounds harsh or like too much information, but it is important to the story. My sister and I were downstairs watching TV when we heard a knock at the door. Being the older sibling, I went to see who it was. Our front door had glass panes, so I could easily see a man standing outside dressed in a Santa suit, holding a bag. When he saw me, he smiled and waved, motioning for me to come to the door. I walked up to the door but did not open it. Even as a kid, I thought it was weird that someone dressed like Santa Claus would come to our house, of all places, in the neighborhood. The man said, "Hey kid, it is me, Santa. Let me in, and I will give you your presents." I remember bluntly telling him that Santa was not real, and even if he was, he would not give presents to Jewish kids anyway. The man's smile faltered for a moment before he said, "Of course I am real. In the past, I only visited Christian homes, but I started feeling bad that Jewish kids never got any presents. This year, I decided to change the rules so you can get gifts too." Even at 7 years old, I was not buying it. In fact, I got mad and argued back, explaining that Jewish kids already got presents during Hanukkah and not on Christmas. That is when the man's fake cheer completely disappeared. His tone changed, and he started demanding that I open the door. I quickly told my sister to call 911. When the man saw us pick up the phone, he ran off, and we both felt relieved. Unfortunately, when we called 911, the operator did not seem to take us seriously. Looking back, I think she assumed we were just two excited kids calling about Santa Claus. She told us the number was for emergencies only and then hung up on us. My sister and I were now terrified. We had no idea what to do next. At 4 and 7 years old, the only numbers we knew were our home phone and 911. Since it was the 1990s, cell phones were not common, and my dad did not have one yet. We also did not know the hospital's number to reach him. With Mom passed out upstairs, we were completely on our own. We hoped the man would not come back, but a few minutes later, there was another knock at the door. This time, he said, "I know the cops are not coming. Open the door, or you are going to be in big trouble." My sister started crying and ran upstairs to try waking up Mom. I was panicking but determined to do something. Then, I got an idea, a really dumb idea, but it was all I could think of at the time. I grabbed some candles we used for our menorah, lit them, and then stood under the smoke detector. I blew out the candles quickly, hoping the smoke would trigger the alarm. Thankfully, the smoke alarm went off. Now, as an adult, I realize how dangerous and stupid this was. I could have accidentally started a fire, but at the time, I thought it was the best way to get help. Luckily, there was a fire station just 2 minutes from our house, so firefighters arrived quickly. When they got there, the man did not leave. Instead, he ran up to the firefighters and told them he was our dad. He explained that he had dressed up as Santa Claus to surprise us for Christmas Eve, but had locked himself out of the house. He begged the firefighters to break down the door to save us from the supposed fire. To my horror, the firefighters seemed to believe him and were about to break down the door. My sister and I were crying and shouting from inside, telling them that he was not our dad. We explained that our dad was working at the hospital, and we had no idea who this man was. I told them we were Jewish and did not even celebrate Christmas. To prove it, I showed them my kippah and pointed to the menorah on the table. One of the firefighters finally stopped and asked the man why Santa would visit a Jewish home. I do not remember exactly what the man said, but it was clear the firefighters did not believe him anymore. 2 of them wrestled him to the ground, while another called the police. They also asked us which hospital our dad worked at so they could inform him of what was happening. The police arrived and arrested the man. One officer stayed with us until my dad came home. When he did, he was furious with our mom for being passed out and leaving us vulnerable, but mostly, he was relieved that we were okay. To this day, I believe being Jewish saved our lives. If we had opened that door and let that man in, I do not think my sister and I would have survived to see another holiday. That year, I was just thankful to return to our usual quiet, uneventful Christmas.